begin doing our reading groups. And with that, there will be 3 stations, as we have done in the past. One with me. When it is your group's time, I'll just blow the whistle or say, could I please have the Great Galveston Hurricane Group come forward? And to bring your little books and your questions 1 through 4 so that we can go ahead and discuss as a group. The other 2 groups that I'm not meeting with, you'll be doing either Daily 5 or the practice book, root words activity, which I'll go over in just a moment. Daily 5, I have shown you where you will be if you are doing read to someone, read to self, or working on writing. So wherever you are, that's what you'll do during that time. The other time that you are not with me, you'll be doing the practice book pages, which you have in front of you. I have the pages written on the board of page 133, 134, and 139. Real quick, I'm just going to go over these just to make sure that questions are answered. So if you want to open these up and see what we're doing, we can do that. Okay, so on 133, it's just questions and predictions. All that we do is read this passage. There are some questions about that passage. We answer all of those. The next page, 134, is the vocabulary page. It gives you the vocab words at the top, and then gives you sentences. You just write the correct word in the sentence. Then we flip to 139, and those are root words. A root word forms the base of a longer word. I gave the example of unhappiness. What's the root word of unhappiness, Haley? Happy. Happy. The prefix is what? Un. So we have unhappy, and the suffix, what we add to the end is ness. So we have unhappiness. The root word is happy. So what we have here is it gives us root words, it gives us meanings, and language of origin. So it says pute, under root word pute. Meaning means to think. Language of origin means Latin. What does language of origin mean? What is that saying? Delaney?
What? Where it's from.
Where it's from. It's more of a Latin word, meaning to think. So then we go down through and look at 1 through 10. Study the root chart above, write the root of each word below. So we have computer. What's the root word of computer using this table right there? What's the root word of computer, Maggie?
Pute.
Pute. So next to 1, write pute, P-U-T-E. Same for number 2, hemisphere. What's the root word for hemisphere? Carly?
Sphere.
Sphere. So you just write those down. So that's 1 through 10. You just write the root word in. Then we go down to the bottom, choose 4 of the words from above. So 1 through 10, how it has kilometer, predict, barometer, atmosphere, biosphere, all those words. You choose 4 of them from above, 1 having each of the root words. So they can't all end with sphere or all end with pute or have pute in them. It has to be one has to be from pute, 1 is meter, 1 is sphere, and 1 is dict. And then write a sentence for each one. So if for the root word for pute, you use computer, write just a sentence using the word computer in there. If another word you choose is hemisphere, write a sentence using the word hemisphere. Does that make sense? So those are the practice book pages. Okay. Now, when you finish, or if you finish the practice book pages during that rotation, the other part of that activity is to do this root words exercise. So I have the Smartboard activity up here. We have the root word is just miss or mit. The meaning of it is to send or let go. What are some examples of root words that have miss or mit in them? Raise your hand when you're ready, and I will call on you, and then you can come up and write one up. So think, what are some words that have miss, mit, that might mean somewhere along the lines of send or let go? Bo?
I just lost it.
Raise your hand if you think of it. Brendan?
He threw the baseball from his mitt.
Okay. Does that, just think about it. Mitt. He threw his baseball like out of the glove like a mitt. Does that meaning have something with send or let go?
Yes.
Tell me about it. How? Why?
You're sending the baseball from the from a mitt.
Okay, so write mid up here. Did you remember yours, sir? No?
It was M-E-T instead of M-E-T, so.
Okay. Somebody else have any ideas? Just me, yeah. Delaney?
Like miss, like the teacher? No, like
Not quite. Good idea. You're thinking about it. What are some other words? What happens at the end of the day? Goodbye. You are now Reese? Dismiss or dismissed in this situation. You are now dismissed. To dismiss means to what? Reese?
Go.
Yeah. Send or let go. Same root word. Give me another word using miss or mitt. Maggie?
Missed. Or like missing.
Just like missed or missing. Okay. Why?
Like something.
Talk to me a little bit more though.
Like you want me to do a sentence?
Not a sentence, but if you have missing. What is the meaning of missing?
Like
What?
gone.
So isn't that kind of like send? They're gone, send is away. Go ahead. Delaney?
Like miss, like I miss you.
That's very similar to that one. So we'll just kind of keep that the same. Thank you though. What about the mitt part? We're doing all miss. I did something wrong. I blank that. I did it wrong. I blank. Adele?
Like you just.
I blank mid it.
Oh, you let go.
But what's the root word if we use mitt or miss? I admit I took your water bottle. Did I just give you the answer?
Yes.
Oops. Adele, what is the word?
Mitt.
What?
Mitt.
Mitt is not a word, but what?
Um,
What mitt?
admit.
Say it again.
Admit.
Admit. Darn it! I'm so excited about this. So these, we'll just stop it there. These all the root word of miss or mitt with the meaning of sending or letting go. Admit, mitt like a glove, dismiss, missing. So then, this is kind of what the first page of this root words activity would look like. Then we'll go to the next page. Frank was fighting in the war when a blank exploded. Frank survived, but his leg had been burned. He was blank to the hospital. After a few days in the hospital, he was blank. These are our word options. Admitted, missile, dismissed. These all have the root word of miss or mitt. Where can they go? This is an activity, this is called close reading, meaning that you have like a paragraph. Some of the other ones are actually multiple paragraphs long, and they just have blanks, and they have words here at the bottom. Let's see. And then you just put them in where they go. Okay, so we'll try this. Frank was fighting in the war when a blank exploded. Frank survived, but his leg had been burned. He was blank to the hospital. After a few days in the hospital, he was blank. Mitch, do you want to come up here and try to fix them? Put them where they belong? Yeah, you can just grab and move them. Keep going. You do them all. They might not always fit in the like exactly, but just where you believe it would go. Okay, read it please, Mitch.
Frank was fighting in the war when a missile exploded his leg, and he was admitted. No.
Well, why don't you, whoops. Why don't you read it all?
It doesn't sound right.
Well, let's finish it. See if maybe as we go along, you're like, oh, that's right. Or if you still believe that you were incorrect. He was
Admitted to the hospital. After 3 days in the hospital, he was dismissed.
how do you think it sounds? Okay, let's think about what these words are. We have the same root, well, the root word of miss and miss. If someone is admitted, okay, so if you say it is to go, he was going to the hospital. After a few days in the hospital, he was what? What does dismiss mean? Sent, what? Sent out. So is what you're saying, does that make sense? After a few days in the hospital, he was sent out? He was dismissed? So do you think it's right then? It makes sense now that we look at it, doesn't it? Class, how do you think he did? Thumbs up for greats, he got them, or thumbs sideways if, I don't know, there might be a little switcheroo in there. Thumbs up or thumbs sideways? Good work. Alright, so then what will happen is you'll do all of this, you'll be able to move them yourself. Then the next page, it'll have the correct answers. So you'll check them. Now, when you do this on your own, after you finish your practice book pages, there will be multiple pages of this, so you might just finish one page, you might get 2 of them done on one page, you might get 2 full pages done, things like this. But the thing is after you've done them just as Mitch did, you put them in the correct spot, and then he checks them, we're good. Then you have to remember, I get to move this down now. Just be careful you don't do that. But you have to remember, come on, work with me please. Uh-oh. Sometimes this thing is so touchy.
Use the back of the pen. Yeah, or it's thin.
I'll try that.
What happens?
Hopefully the other ones are.
We already know the answers.
Move.
Yeah, we already know the answers anyway.
Move. Frank was fighting.
Oh,
Move that down.
Oh, I knew we
Move. Frank was fighting.
Yeah,
down.
move it
And
down
then
and
try
then-
that.
I'm gonna try one more thing. If I just grab this.
say it.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Thank you guys.
You're welcome.
Good helpers. Just make sure you move them down when you're finished. Okay, so does that make sense? Delaney?
How long do you get on that? Just like other people.
It's one rotation. So say you finish your practice book. You come up here. You just start working on it right away. Then say Lindsay finishes 2 minutes after you. Lindsay, when she's finished, she will come up here and you guys can work together. Like Lindsay will have to read it to herself and then determine where these things go. And then if there's one that she's a little confused by, maybe you guys can discuss it. So the groups are only there's only 4 or 5 per group. So if there's more than that, like if all of you want to do the practice book root words activity right away, some of you move ahead and do daily 5. Because if there are 8 of you doing this, it's going to get messy. But if half of you do this while the other half do daily 5 while I'm meeting with the other few people, then it'll only be 4 or 5 people per groupish. Does that make sense, Carly?
We already know the answers.
Right. This is not the. This was the practice one to model and to show you guys. The actual one is this one. So here has the root words of script or scribe, like scrib. It means to write. What are some other things that mean to write? Just give me one.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Okay. So we just do the same like we did up here. We start writing. Then we go to this page, which you have to read it, and then you just move them, just like before. And the final page of this will give you the answers. I don't want to show them to you. Then there are more. You can see that. So that's how that looks. Okay? So there are 3 groups. One is with me. Bring your little books and your answers. One And one is your practice book when you finish come here do your word. This will cause you to think. Think out of the box. If there's somebody else up there with you, do not talk like I'm talking to you. And you can still brainstorm some ideas and go from there. As I said, just make sure that when you're finished up there, you move your answers back down. Okay? And then if you would, set it back to this page.
And then erase that.
Right. So you guys are familiar with all of this. You know how to erase, you know how to move the things back, since you were showing me.
Yes.
But if you could just set it back to this page, and just the one that says script or scribe, scrib, that sort of thing. Does that make sense? Are you all familiar with what you'll be doing?
Yes.
Think you can handle it?
Yes.
Okay. Could I please meet with the group, the Great Galveston Hurricane, at the back table? Everyone else, you may either do the practice book or daily 5. Go ahead and get going. Being quiet. You may certainly use the comfy things. Then if you're working independently on your own, doing your best. So yeah, Mike today, and who else?
Jax. Isn't that right?
Haley.
What about Jax? Oh, Jax. You ready, Missy? I have my page. Just come on. Come on. No, we're just... Come on.
You had a few minutes ago. That's why as we use these notebooks, you go in order so that you don't lose them. That's why we go page by page order. Is that it? Oh. Alright, well as she's looking for it, we can go ahead and start. Just with like the title. And this record. What predictions did you make or things did you think would happen? Missy?
There's gonna be the tornado.
Tornado?
No.
Hurricane. Why hurricane?
Because it says the Great Galveston.
Great. What else? Anybody else make a prediction for
I
us?
think it's gonna be in a town called Galveston.
Allison? Cool. Oh?
I put like a prediction before I read it.
You just started?
I know there's gonna be a hurricane.
So that is making a prediction. Whether you know what they predicted. That's still a prediction. Alright. So, we'll go over the questions in just a moment. But I have some questions of my own before we go. Did anybody catch a typo on page 5?
What?
A typo? Or something that was missed?
Found it. Yeah.
What though?
Isn't one of them supposed to be capitalized?
Not unless if it's saying like that they're using it as his name. Good try though.
Barometer.
I'll give you a hint. It's not so much spelling or capitalization as something that they put in that was unnecessary or that they did not put in. So like grammar of a sentence wise.
Is it?
There's a type on page 5 heading.
So did they not put it on or something?
Well, let's look. It's in the second paragraph actually. You might not even catch it because your brain fills it in.
Oh, I found it. They didn't put
So read the sentence, please.
It had been one of the hottest summers on record, and the strong breezes moving in ahead of the storm came as a relief.
So they forgot.
You were right, because I did put of and then I
Well, that's what I did as I was reading it too. Because you know that that's what would come. So then you just fill it in. You didn't even realize. I had to reread that because I was like, wait, that doesn't sound quite right. So, thank you. I'm just curious. What are stages of a storm, like of a hurricane, I guess.
I mean,
It talks about when it first begins to kind of gain speed, or when things are first happening.
can we look there?
Yeah, please do. What are the stages? I found 3 different stages that a hurricane goes through. Like, what's the first one?
First station is that the conditions have to be right.
Right. And so if the conditions are right, it becomes a hurricane. That's the third one.
Well,
There's
hurricane.
it becomes a hurricane. It has to build up enough speed, enough momentum to become a hurricane. It doesn't start off that strong. It starts off as what?
What?
Check it out.
I know. Starts off as
Look at
a
page
ruffle
2.
on the Atlantic in the ocean.
But it gives you names of what they say. Keep reading.
Thunderstorms.
Keep going. They're names that we don't hear commonly.
String that slithered like a snake.
Keep going. You're getting closer.
Tropical depression.
Yes. This. Can you read that sentence for us, though?
The storm at the stage was called a tropical depression.
So that's the first part. So when it's just, that's when it is having thunderstorms. That's when it says it's kind of coiling and all of that. It's swirling together. That's a tropical depression. Then what does it become? So tropical depression, you know, it's not very fun, but it's not horrible.
Now, we're gonna do our questions.
What does it become next? It's on page 4. Maybe
Strong winds.
the winds pick up, creating a.
Massive air.
Tropical.
She's on the right page. Haley, you want to finish it? Keep reading. That's not the name of what it's called. That's what's happening, but it's not what it's
In the
called.
second paragraph. Tropical storm.
Bingo. So the first stage of this storm is called a what?
Tropical depression.
Then it's now what?
Tropical storm.
And then it becomes a. Do you notice that it gets bigger and bigger and bigger as we go along? It's windy. Then when it's a tropical storm, how big are those winds? 40 miles an hour. Then when it becomes a hurricane, it becomes about what? 400. And this.
64.
It could get up there, but it starts smaller. The winds could easily get up very, very high.
I think it said something about like 102 or something.
That's crazy.
Or that might have been in Oregon storm.
Then I was wondering on page 12. What are those numbers? It's talking. It was very deadly, devastating, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Can you read that for me, Macy? The whole paragraph right there.
Eventually, it was found that 6,000 were killed in the city alone, and 8,000 to 10,000 total unarmed. At least 5,000 people have been injured. More than 10,000 people were homeless. To this day, no natural disaster in the United States has been as deadly.
Thank you. Do you agree with this? Because this book, let's see if we can find out what it's written. Anybody see? When this book is written.
A bunch of numbers, but I think the same as numbers.
Right. I don't see it. Let me know if you guys do, but I couldn't even find one. But probably 10 years old or so, you can get it done.
It's probably the same age as the book.
Right, right. So do you agree with that? No natural disaster in the United States has been as deadly. you think there's anything that's happened since then that might have been?
Probably.
That's not the United States.
That's the
You
typhoon.
could look it up.
Or that's not
Or,
That's not in the US.
the typhoon.
I thought it was in
what? What did you say?
The typhoon.
I think it was mostly elsewhere.
What?
Typhoon.
Typhoon what?
I don't
I said it
think
mostly,
there's a.
it was mostly not in the United States.
What typhoon?
Which typhoon?
The one that
The one that was in Vietnam?
Just recently, like earlier this year? Yeah, that was not the United States.
I don't think there's been a worse thing.
Do you think Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah, that was way worse, I bet.
what about
No, it may have been.
Katrina.
Hurricane
Sandy.
Sandy?
Sandy. That was pretty bad.
Let me grab,
Structure one.
let me grab the computer. I'll leave that one up there, but I'll grab a different one. And, did you want to look it up? Sure. Not that one, the book was made, but you want to look up to see what the deadliest disaster was? I'll
You're
grab it.
probably gonna say Sandy. Wait, where was Hurricane Katrina anyway? It was like in the Indian Ocean or something.
Yeah, I don't know where it was.
Was it in India? Was Hurricane Katrina in India?
No, it was not.
Or was it?
Oh, come on, internet work for me.
Let's reach to where was it?
Look that up too. Okay, this should work. This is my own personal computer, so just
You know where it was.
Okay. So let's peek at these questions. Bo can look first while we keep moving on. Bo, you just pay attention to this too. So we're looking at, like, what should you look at?
The greatest superstar.
What are you looking at?
The biggest hurricane.
Or deadliest?
Deadliest
In
hurricane
United
in the
States.
United States.
Sure.
Because otherwise it might be.
Deadliest natural disaster
Yes.
in the United States. Alright, in what season is a hurricane most likely to form, Haley?
What?
Number one. In what season is a hurricane most likely to form?
Spring.
Spring.
This one is in.
Spring.
Okay, but it gives us the answer in the book.
Yep. Here it is. Deadliest hurricane in the United States.
It's on page.
The first one.
I'm thinking it was the first page.
He found the Galveston.
There it is.
Popped right up. 1900.
Page 3.
Yeah.
Page 3, Haley.
1900.
That's why it's so important to use your book and not just guess, alright? When is it?
It's the second page.
End of a long, hot summer.
Is it
What are
okay
you
if I
finding,
do
Bo?
in
I
the
found the largest and deadliest hurricane to hit the U.S.
In,
in the United States.
was it the Galveston or was it
I didn't look on the thing.
It said Galveston.
Hurricane Katrina. I don't even know if that hit the U.S. Did it?
I don't know.
She knows.
Hurricane Katrina.
I don't
When you
remember.
read, people were often sent down to like Florida, Louisiana to help them. And for my
Yeah,
church, it's
Louisiana.
here.
I remember.
So alright, we'll
Oh,
move
the
on.
Galveston hurricane didn't say in 1901.
Here it is. Deadliest hurricane to hit the United. The Great Galveston Hurricane.
So
of
still to this day, that's very true.
The deadliest
Oh
hurricane.
yeah, it tells us.
It tells
It
us
was
right
the
in
last
there.
of between 1900.
It caused between 8,000 and 12,000 deaths. The storm reached the Texas coast. The Texas coast with south of Galveston on
So this looks right, huh?
September 8th as a Category 4 hurricane with a storm surge of 8 to 15 feet. The lack of warning and the high storm surge caused the storm to have the highest death toll of any United States hurricane. Second deadliest is 1928 Okeechobee hurricane,
Oh, wow. All right.
which claimed 2,500 to 3,000 lives.
Wow. Thank you, Bo.
I want to see
appreciate
the
you looking-
greatest hurricane.
We can look this up at a different time. Right now we've had a few webinars. Why are the conditions, number 2, why are the conditions at the west coast of Africa perfect for the start of the hurricane?
Because it was hurricane season and the conditions in the atmosphere were perfect.
Like, what were those conditions?
Oh, I got it. Because of uneven hot or coldness in the atmosphere.
And as it started there, why is it important that it started there? Why couldn't it have just started in Florida? Because what happened? It started in Africa, then what happened as it came closer?
The wind dropped.
Bigger, the momentum, speed.
The wind.
3, why do you think the people in Madison are not prepared for hurricanes?
They didn't listen to it.
And then what did you do?
Because all the other hurricanes were around.
They had lots of wind and other things, so probably didn't think this was bad.
And they thought it was just a regular thunderstorm.
Main idea, Haley. Move forward. Main idea.
The main idea was the Madison hurricane. It destroyed it.
So, kind of telling us all about the Galveston hurricane. How it what?
Like destroyed like
But what happened before it destroyed? How it talked also about how it started and grew and hit and then how it destroyed things. Alright?
Oh, number 5.
5 we may or may not be able to answer too clearly. What about the Great Galveston hurricane reminds you of the storm and the big storm? Go ahead.
Because they both had something to do with the storm.
Yes.
I figured that out.
I'm not sure, but I think the big storm is on the 20th, right? So I put the hurricane reminds me of the big tornado because they were both unexpected and huge storms. Also because they are both teaching us about the weather.
Great, and Mason.
I just said that both of the storms are like traveling in like a long distance. Isn't it? Like big storms.
Yes, can I have both your books and put your answers right here? I'll take your book, answers go here, and your book. Can I get the group with tornadoes to please come back here? Remember keeping voices off? Great job, class. I see the outside around it, and then inside there's the mailbox flying, letters flying on the fire.
I see a chair.
You see a chair? Yep. So it reminds me of Vincent Virginia because of all those things.
How annoying.
Or like,
It kind of looks like a story that
like we like how to survive.
Pretty sure the ones
let's open up to page 23. Maggie, have you moved on to the next station? So you read this. What's kind of these 2 pages? What's a summary of these pages? What's it talking about? You can briefly glance over them because you might not remember from yesterday. But what's kind of just this real quick couple sentences summary of what's happening on page 2 and page 3? Adele?
People are like making Easter eggs. it's like in April.
Right, it's just before Easter, so they're just kind of living around the line. Nothing real exciting, just doing it. So in this last paragraph, on page 3, follow along with me please, or what one of you like to do it?
People went on with their babies. They did not yet know that perfectly ordinary thunderstorms would turn into the most terrible episodes of their lives. The question was, would they find out in time to hide from it? Soon those who were lucky enough to be listening will hear the warnings that something terrible was brewing in that storm.
What did you think about when you read that? Everyone's just going on with their normal everyday lives. Nothing's going on. Maybe Easter eggs. They're actually leaving practice. They were watching a movie. And it says they did not yet know that a perfectly ordinary thunderstorm would turn into one of the terrible episodes of their lives. Did you think anything about that, or did you predict something from that?
Like, maybe they didn't know anything about the storm, because like they're so busy.
So did you make any predictions of what was to happen, what was going to happen next? Ethan, did you? How did you determine that would happen?
Because when the adult was reading it, it took me that much to read it.
So, just by using those pictures, and reading pictures, cool. Alright, so when you go through, did you notice there are these little pictures right here? These tiny little pictures? Browse through those pages now, and see what you notice. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Hold on, just look at it first. Reese, what did you notice?
It's like probably like the twister coming down. It gets bigger and bigger and then
So it just beginning bigger and bigger and bigger, and then what happens is after it's really big, and then what happens? It's smaller and
It goes
smaller.
back up to the
So then it goes back into the clouds, and then what happens in the last picture? Then what happens in the last picture? Sunshine and everything's back normal. Isn't it amazing how quickly this can happen? And then it's over. And then it's over. 10 minutes later, you'll be able to see that there is destruction. Like, it won't, be over the top of the sky or anything like that. Isn't that crazy?
It's like 10 minutes and everything is destroyed.
Once my family was going to prison in Christian Texas when I drove through Oklahoma. Do you guys remember hearing about the tornado in Moore, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
So it was like a year ago or so. This was happening. We were driving through. We drove right through Moore. It was the craziest thing. We were just driving on the interstate, and suddenly we saw a place where there were flattened houses. There was stuff on the ground, all that. And then 50 feet later, it was all perfectly fine. It's just this tiny little stretch, like this row of houses that was taken out. The house on either side was fine. It's so crazy. And there's having its own path that just does it. If you're, this could be a house right here, this could be a house here, this house could be destroyed. This one's perfectly fine. It's just crazy how it is. So, here's our first story. Let's go ahead and talk about this last part. Questions. Which direction do these tornadoes fly? Adele?
I said like in the alley.
What direction though? Like direction like north, south, east, west, northeast, southeast, that sort of thing.
I have like left to right.
Well, that depends on where you are.
Maybe
Reese?
southwest and north.
Bingo. Well, southwest and north.
But in here it says left to right.
Southwest and northeast.
Yeah, because it's
So that's typically, not always, but that's typically the pattern. So it starts off more in the southwestern kind of United States and then it moves north upward. So it doesn't typically, usually doesn't start here in Iowa, it has to start something south and moves up here. Makes sense. Which part of the US do you greatest number can you visit? Midwest. This is known as, what's the name for where they most of the trains hit? Tornado Alley.
That's right.
And they said that's also where there's the flat middle section of the country, so like the Midwest. You're absolutely right. Hey, why do you think the smell of fresh cut pine is in the air the morning after it just starts past in Jefferson County? It's fine. You just erase what you've started anyway. Reese, I haven't heard too much from you.
No, I put wet fluid. Look at it really like a
Okay. Talk to what you think.
There's a whole bunch of trees broken half and teared out of the ground.
So how does that have to do with the smell of the pine?
Well, like right by the pine tree or something, you can smell it.
You smell all of those ripped apart or something, Blaine?
I have because of fresh air.
Did you have a different one or no?
I just felt like the trees would be all down and
I think you guys are absolutely right. I just think that with all the damage of things being thrown about and moved and like if you mess with like something with pine, you kind of like there's once when I climbed a tree, like a pine tree, and I smell like that pine from like just because I like went around it. So I threw it all up and moving it and all that definitely smelled. So what's the story mostly about, you know?
like they told us about like how the tornado was formed, like what caused it. And like how bad some damage it does.
And this was specifically about what tornado?
Jefferson County.
The one in Jefferson County. Do you know where Jefferson County is?
No, it shows up
Where? In Alabama. Alright, I'll take a peek at your number 5s. But that's all that we have time for right now, so I'll take your books, I'll take your answers. And